Freestyle the news! Give me an offer you can't refuse. Pick the kind of poison you have to choose. I'm counting the seconds on a bomb they can't defuse. I'm talking as reckless as I can. I want the views. Keep firing the missile till they drop and block the news. Oh. Here go another, they banning you undercover or kick you like Larry Summers. They saw his name on the Gumbers, the baby oil and butter. Your documentary on Netflix, somebody should warn a brother. The bubble be looking unstable, throw more shade than Tarantino to Paul Dano. You motherfuckers that tweet away from a bad ratio. Spotify numbers stealing from you like bad cable. They got the pardons on all the crooks and the lies, while innocents get profiled. They tell us we in the green. As your bosses tell you you fired, the SCOTUS money's the cipher and hits the laws like a sniper to color up the proceedings. They really making it whiter. Who be checking all the crashes? You been rigging shots till the bullets firing backwards. All those Gerrymanders ain't stopped you from getting answered. Hold us up for ransom until you fucking pandering more than Jillian Maxwell. Bitch, I'm in my prime, so take me out of the desert. Put me back in the zoo till my money humble the legend. You crumble under the pressure, I'm calling out everybody like Halle Berry to Gavin before he making his entrance. Get it packed up. They keep on shifting the info like who was the culprit as if they're trying to bury the signal. Got a participation trophy just to use as a symbol to keep you a symbol while half your reputation abysmal. And everybody out here dooming at the end of the year feel like we're aging even quicker than 11 did here. I just keep my eye on the ball and never swing the resolve till we drop this motherfucker like Clippers to Chris Paul. You can't refuse, pick the kind of poison you have to choose. I'm counting the seconds on a bomb they can't defuse. I'm talking as reckless as I can, I want the views. Keep firing the missile till they drop and block the news. Oh. Here go another, they banning you undercover or kick you like Larry Summers. They saw his name on the Gumbers, the baby oil and butter. Your documentary on Netflix, somebody should warn a brother like, ooh, too soon? Fuck around, find out. Yes, I'm wearing a Nas hoodie. I know, it's dope. My sister got it for me like a month ago, but then she was like, hey, I also got a Nas hoodie and we should wear it at the same time, and I don't play like that. I love you, sis. Hey, thank you guys so much for watching Freestyle the News. If you like what you heard, hit that like button and subscribe. But very quickly, watch this. Lilypichu.
I think fighting games are for everyone, and they're really fun, and I think you should try it. And if you haven't yet, I'm sure there's one that will fit you. And if you think I'm an FGC tourist, suck my balls. Thank you.
Are you not entertained? Are you not entertained? Shout outs to Lilypichu. Let those motherfuckers know how it is. I am so happy to see that, especially in that clip with Say Jam and everybody being so ecstatic that she won. Yeah, because get the fuck out of here. All these gatekeeping idiots trying to tell me, oh, you're a tourist. You shut the fuck up. Everybody can pull up to the FGC session. Anybody can stream fighting games and get on that stage. I'm genuinely happy at watching that spectacle on stage. I'm so happy that she shouted out other fighting games, right? Fighting games are for everybody. Anybody can pull up to the session. Just a general good vibe. And I want to say this right now. I want, if you think I'm an FGC tourist, you can suck my balls, and fighting games are something so great on the same shirt. Two goats, two good quotes. That rhymed. I'm a rapper. Anyway, we are back again. It's the holiday season, right? I don't know if this is the final Freestyle the News of the year. I think we're going to get to do one more. But just a reminder, I'm going to be on vacation from the 14th to the 20th. I'm going to try to do a Sunday show next week, but also plan some subjects to tape a little bit before then so you have some content while I'm, on my vacation life. And if something breaks, maybe I'll do a stream or a yap session or something like that. But genuinely, we got a lot we got to get into, so let's just jump into this breakdown. And look, it's been a crazy week, but we gotta start it off with the biggest story that everybody has been talking about since yesterday as of this taping, right? Netflix and the Warner Brothers merger and the possible end of the theatrical experience. If you have not already heard, over the last couple of weeks, there has been an intense bidding war for a chance to buy Warner Brothers, the studio that gave us The Matrix, Superman, Bugs Bunny, Space Jam, not that one, Space Jam, and more. Warner Brothers has had a very tough time over the last few years, especially under the stewardship of David Zaslav, who famously made headlines for all of the content he just essentially fucking destroyed. Oh, look at all of the work and time that this movie that you made took that's finished. Well, fuck you now, it's a tax write-off. He made a bunch of controversial decisions around content at the time. As well, the fucking app for HBO changed its name a million times and then immediately went back to the original name that it had in the first place. Or like the second, what are we doing? But look, Warner Brothers has been in extreme debt for a long time. That's why they hired Zaslav, is to deal with all of this, right? And actually this year, surprisingly, they had an insane run with movies like Weapons, Superman, One Battle After Another, and Sinners. Oh my God, what a fucking slate. It's an incredible turnaround, but leading up to this deal, there was a ton of speculation about who would win the bidding war, right? And the ramifications, especially with Paramount Skydance's Dave Ellison wanting to reshape media in a very right-wing propagandized way, had a lot of people incredibly worried. Again, he had just acquired Paramount Skydance after his daddy got it for him. And the decisions he's made at CBS have already drawn massive scrutiny with his implementations of Barry Weiss as the head of CBS News. So that was the shadow that was casting over this deal that was scaring the shit out of everybody. But finally, the news came in yesterday as of this recording that actually Paramount Skydance had lost their bid to buy Warner Brothers to Netflix. Yay! Except it's Netflix buying Warner Brothers. For the tune of $82.7 billion, which includes the debt Warner Brothers had on it, Netflix's acquisition of Warner Brothers is a seismic event in the entertainment industry. Let's ignore the fact that it is indicative of the massive sea change that has occurred over the last 10 to 20 years in entertainment media. That the company Blockbuster failed to buy, ate them in the market share, and then made its own movies, and now is about to buy another studio. A historic studio that helped build Hollywood. Let's put those aside for a minute. The major headlines of the story that everybody seems to be talking about are A, what happens to theaters, and B, why are we playing Monopoly right now? You see, unlike the Disney-Fox merger that happened in December 2017, during the first it's a fucking reboot! A reboot! Unlike the Disney-Fox merger, which at the time seemed to have a lot more public support because, oh shit, we get to see Deadpool and Wolverine together, right? In 2025, there is far more scrutiny of corporate mergers and how they interact with the public interest at scale, especially after the Microsoft and Activision Blizzard merger had so many problematic side effects. This time around, the public is far more literate on how corporate mergers can end up raising prices and end up affecting many people's jobs. And even more so, in a market like this one, the fact that this could spell more inequality for choice in the marketplace doesn't go unnoticed. And that's why you can see widespread panic and fear everywhere about what this merger means for the future of entertainment and also what it means for the other major players here, movie theaters. Dozens of TikTokers and Twitter film aficionados and just content creators around the film space, right, are talking about the very true ramifications of what could happen to the theatrical experience if possibly when Netflix decides all of these massive WBIPs are now coming to streaming like 3 days after they come out in theaters, or just exclusively just immediately go to streaming. It could very well be the death knell for a lot of theaters who are already going through a pretty deep crisis right now. But that's not all. Here's MoistCritikal chiming in.
Now, we are seeing this happen in pretty much every sector where some of the giants, the Goliaths in the industries, will buy up some of the other behemoths. So that way they become one absolute mega corporation which owns so much of it. So it makes it a less competitive space, which means there is less incentive for these companies to listen to consumers and make quality products because you're not going anywhere anyway. They have everything. It's a bad deal for your average Joe Schmo because the companies will be financially butt-fucking you with no remorse because what are you going to do about it?
And Charlie's right. The other day, he had a great video about how one of the biggest RAM manufacturers for PC hardware was ending their consumer-facing brand to sell RAM exclusively to AI companies. And they're one of 3 major manufacturers of PC RAM. That kind of consolidation in the space spells a lot of problems when the profits are prioritized over the needs of the people who support the medium in the first place. Which I know some guy who's subscribed to like 1,000 Substacks is about to write me an essay about how the ills of capitalism have brought. Yeah, I know, dude. I'm currently complaining about it. But look, what is a little bit encouraging is there is massive pushback to this whole thing, right? Both the WGA and SAG-AFTRA released statements opposing and also raising serious concerns about this merger and what it could mean. There have been dozens of calls everywhere to implement some sort of antitrust enforcement here. And by the way, if you haven't heard, a lot of people in Congress all across different aisles aren't happy with this. And listen, Netflix hasn't been all silent on this, right? They clearly understand the many issues that this presents and what the concerns are. With Netflix CEO Ted Sarandos trying to quell some of the fears, saying in response to the WB merger that WB films would still be hitting theaters and that they wanted to keep the theatrical experience intact. However, that is me paraphrasing his statement, and the way it's phrased is kind of worrying people as well. Here it is, and I quote, "My pushback has mostly been in the fact of the long exclusive windows." He's talking about exclusive windows for theatrical releases, right? This stays in theater for like a month or 2 months or whatever for people to see it, right? Continuing quote, "which we don't really think are that consumer friendly. I think over time the windows will evolve to be much more consumer friendly, to meet our audience where they are. All those things we'd like to do. But I say that right now you should count on everything that has planned on going to theaters through Warner Brothers will continue to go to theaters through Warner Brothers. Now, if you speak corporate jargon like I do, has planned on going to theaters and consumer friendly inspire a lot of anxiety because they're either non-committal or broad enough that you might be already hiding a possible switch in strategy down the trough. Or, and very much so, or he could be telling the truth and he just wants to keep his options open. But either way, any of these three options, right, not very confidence inspiring when it comes to the health and well-being of the theatrical experience. So look, as you can tell from the start of the story, I have a lot of mixed feelings about this. I think very clearly Paramount not getting this merger was a good thing. I don't think Comcast would have been much better. Well, better than Paramount, but still monopolistic. I don't think a merger should be happening, right? But I'll talk about that in a second. Firstly, I do want to say a few things about a lot of the info going around because there is some conflation and panic here that is getting extrapolated to the nth degree, but also turning a very warranted, sincere fear into something incredibly doomerist, conspiratorial, and nihilistic. So number one, this is not a snap your fingers and it's done type of thing. This deal does not close most likely till Q3 of 2026, and it's expected to face an insane amount of antitrust scrutiny. I didn't even see Microsoft and Activision Blizzard get this much telegraphed, "Oh, we fucking don't like this," when it was announced. It also is gonna face a lot of pushback and a possible hostile takeover from Paramount, which I think the latter would be horrible, but also unlikely. But the antitrust pushback on all of this is very serious. So it's a marathon, not a sprint. Now, number two, about Netflix as a monopoly. Don't get me wrong at all. This merger would 100% move Netflix to a more monopolistic structure over the streaming market because it has one of the biggest shares of it. It is the dominant player, only next to Amazon Prime, controlling about 34 to 36% of the market. Amazon controls about 24%. HBO Max, however, controls 15% of the market, and you still have Disney Plus and Paramount Plus and a bunch of other streaming services competing against Netflix, which have a pretty respectable share. Now, that's not me excusing or saying actually there's nothing to see here. It's saying that while things are arguably moving in a very, very worrying direction, a monopolistic one, right? It isn't the immediate end of everything and the instant onset of a monopoly. There are still competitors you can support if need be, and still avenues, right, to try to stop this thing. Even if it somehow goes through, we are not cooked yet. But the other issue is theaters. Many people are wondering what happens to theaters now. And look, like we said, there is a thing a lot of people aren't talking about when it comes to the theatrical experience. Again, this is not absolving Netflix from anything, right? But Netflix isn't just factually the sole reason why theaters are not doing as well, right? It is a large contributing factor to that problem, but it is not the silver bullet that has single-handedly destroyed the theatrical experience. That was COVID and the writers' strikes. I don't know if you remember, but around 2019, there was an enormous surge of people like talking about, oh my God, theaters have sprung to life. Movies are fucking doing crazy because of these large tentpole productions like Avengers Endgame. James Cameron and Disney were congratulating each other constantly. People were buying, you know, the exclusive movie passes to each chain, right? Fathom Events was having a renaissance, and ever since COVID and those strikes, things have drastically turned because production halted, and now production is still incredibly slow in Hollywood. And if you don't know anything about the strikes in general, it takes time for productions to move back up again and, you know, build, right? Look at how long it took for the 2007 strike. Ratio that out and compare it to this one, and you'll see we still got a little bit of time left on that clock. But regardless, everyone is feeling the effects of that. And so the options available to the consumers are far less versus a lot of the reality shows and quicker content turnarounds from streaming services. And those services also have a lot of just TV serial content, which seems to be doing very well. Now, even with that, yes, the short window of movies jumping into theaters and just immediately coming to streaming, there has been a sincere degradation, and that is a real issue, no question. But if you want to try to save the theatrical experience itself and people going to theaters and having a good time at the movies, right? We also have to talk about Netflix's incentives, which are money. Netflix currently releases movies into theaters for a short period of time, and they didn't used to do this, but they did it because of like a few weird awards rules that they had to abide by. But it was also a nice little press opportunity for certain movies for them to go, hey, go see it in the theater, go see it on the biggest screen you can, to generate some buzz for that film. But listen, if there was a concerted effort or campaign, right, to make theaters, like going to theaters, a cultural experience for everybody again. I'm not talking about what's already happened because there hasn't been a real push for that, right? But if there was a sincere, lucrative campaign like that, right, a sustained Barbenheimer or something else, yeah, Netflix would extend those fucking windows like crazy, and that is all very possible. Look at K-pop Demon Hunters. They put that in theaters, not because they fucking needed to, because the response was so insane, they couldn't say no. And that's not absolving Netflix, but I'm just trying to talk about how do we push companies like this into honoring the traditions of the art that we love in the way that we love it. How do you force them into that position? And the other issue alongside that and the ramifications of COVID that got us there is the generational gap. For people from my generation who grew up with theaters as a ritual, movies as a ritual, right? We used to camp out to see movies, you know, at midnight and all that. The generation after mine hasn't really had a long form version of that experience because that tradition largely expired with COVID. But in general, going to the movies after COVID, huge crater. People became way less social. It's like malls. Much of the Gen Z and late Gen Z experience is because they see theaters as a big event space, right? It's less of a general social setting where we all just kind of hang out and go see a movie, right? It's, oh, big tentpole events in culture and society, we go there. The big movie everybody wants to see is like a concert. Have you seen it? Can you discuss it? What was it like? We're all sharing that. They have that with like series and stuff like that on these streaming services. And there was a point where they had it with movies, but that's largely gone for the most part. But when it does hit on things like Barbenheimer or the Minions movie, right? Or even fucking Zootopia over the last weekend, right? You see people dress up in suits. You'll see the midnight premieres. You'll see sing-alongs and pop-offs. It feels like how millennials felt with the movies coming out. Like giant celebration and events we all get to experience and hang out at. And bringing that back is gonna take time. That doesn't excuse Netflix for what it's doing, and it doesn't mean that they're going to honor the theatrical experience like they're saying they will. But you can force corporations to do what you want by selective patronage. Because motherfuckers who work there are fucking desperate to find any fucking way to be like, oh, hey, get this, you'll make $1 off it. I got you $1, do it, promote me. Again, a concerted campaign to make movies a social experience again, right? Amongst millennials and Gen Z and Gen Alpha, even with the movies that are out currently, not even the next batch, right? You can make it a social tradition again, which is possible. There will be far more of a permission structure for these suits who want those fucking promotions to be like, hey, well, why don't we release it in the theaters? We'll make a couple dollars. But also more than that, if you're worried about the monopolistic structure of Netflix, keep in mind also the competitors for these platforms in the space aren't just Amazon Prime, Hulu, and Disney Plus. They're YouTube, TikTok, Instagram, and Twitch. Zooming out, this is an attention economy. These streaming platforms want your attention, or they'll go the way of TV, terrestrial TV and cable. And now you have alternative paid ecosystems like Dropout, Nebula, Patreons, and Substacks, and Too Soon Crew, which you should, if you want to support the show, you should subscribe there. This is a larger ecosystem and a sea change. And once again, full disclosure, I am worried about this merger. But more so than that, I'm already thinking about what I want to support if it goes through, and knowing that while art is a business that has to make money, what decides long-term the type of art that influences societies and cultures for all of us to experience is us. When consumer-friendly means that, well, then maybe I'll be a little bit more trustworthy of the building trying to buy up everything around me. Let me know what you think in the comments. One more story before we get out of here. Let's talk about the Supreme Court. Everybody's favorite topic, right? You love the Supreme Court, don't you? Don't you feel ecstatic when the news story about what the Supreme Court just did pops up on your phone, and you're like, get me my Alexa Pro. The SCOTUS has made some pretty big news this week under two different stories. Number one, the court allowing Texas's new gerrymandered mid-decade redistricting map to be used for the midterms and primaries. Now again, this thing dropped on Friday. Remember Friday, that day when the administration and everybody tries to freak everybody the fuck out? Because it dropped Friday, everyone went ballistic. After weeks of stories around this Texas map and the new information we got from the special elections this year about the effectiveness of this gerrymander itself, suddenly it became, all of that's bullshit. The scales once again have been rigged. It's going to destroy everything tomorrow. We'll be corroded and living in huts. Look, the Texas gerrymander, this fucking map in general, is still a heinous story for how brazen it was that the president of the United States encouraged for a gerrymander to just happen to steal seats. Like, that's just egregious and disgusting, dude, on so many levels. But listen, even Dave Wasserman, right? The man who says, I've seen enough, and you're like, oh, fuck, the election is called. Even David Wasserman, considering this map with the demographic shifts we saw in these election results, and with the efforts from other Democratic states to also kind of like counteract all of this stuff, right? Looking at all of that, the results we've been seeing from this game the Trump administration is trying to pull with these gerrymandered maps are not what they thought they were going to be. Also, with Tennessee moving from plus 22 to only plus 9, that 13-point shift, yeah, okay. That doesn't mean this is a done deal, obviously. Gerrymanders are still unfair and very worrying, right? And this isn't something to immediately dismiss. But I think panicking over the court doing this and ignoring all of the information we've received since these special elections is counterintuitive, right? There's a lot more going on with the elections that might change the face of everything, not just this. But the other big decision that sent shockwaves everywhere was the SCOTUS taking up the case over Trump's birthright citizenship executive order. Almost instantly, way more panic across multiple communities, and that's reasonable panic, right? With Trump's rhetoric, especially in the recent week about Somalis, some of the most blatant racism we've heard from somebody presidential since Pat Buchanan. But listen, whenever I talk about the Supreme Court and how it operates, people still treat all this shit like an on and off light switch. Like, once again, I've clarified it so many fucking times on this show about the presidential immunity ruling. So many people still don't know anything about that ruling. They think it just makes Trump immediately immune to stuff. It's not how the ruling works. Democrats. They always feel the SCOTUS is a foregone conclusion. It's the rich uncle Donald Trump goes to for a loan every time he needs to bend the law. But it is important to note, it is not always just one-note, monochromatic decisions, right? Even in this case specifically around birthright citizenship, in the last dance with this executive order, the justices seem pretty set on the fact that trying to undo birthright citizenship in and of itself was unconstitutional. The law was settled. At least that's what they were telegraphing. But they sided with the precedents on nationwide injunction, which has long been something many of these justices have been trying to get rid of forever. But even there, they offered recourse on how to still file, right, and block something from immediately taking effect. And so far, it has been effective at blocking many of the agenda items of the Trump administration, right, especially in the last few weeks. And even experts like the ACLU, who is arguing this case, right, are using pretty confident language when talking about what will happen here, right? A little bit in contrast to the previous moments where the Trump administration has pushed for a SCOTUS review. Now, does that mean that the Supreme Court are going to be rational, honest thinkers and submit to the letter of the law and just do the right thing? Fucking no. Like, what do you think this is, right? I don't think the Supreme Court is a rational body that does all the hard legal work and chooses just unbiasedly for lady justice, right? They're all partisans. They're all partisans. They interact with partisanship and their jurisprudence, that is a big part of it, in different ways, right? And they all make political calculations about what rulings will fuck them and their institution's reputation long term. Just look at some of the rulings they did and some of the decisions they handed down after they overturned Roe for a little bit. There was very clearly the midterms are coming. But also something I do want to clarify, because I feel like a lot of things do get conflated. Again, I understand if you're worried about this, it is a very worrying thing. But just to make it very clear, if the worst of the worst happens, you do not become decitizenized from this order, right? That's not how this kind of thing works. Like, again, it doesn't retroactively just decitizenize everybody who's already been a citizen in the country. And again, like in general right now, it seems way more unlikely for the court to overturn this, right? Like, there's a lot of people saying it's pretty unlikely. But I don't want to immediately dismiss fears. I don't want to act like I'm Nostradamus and predicting everything. Is Nostradamus still a great predictive, that who would win in a fight, Nostradamus or Kalshi? I think Nostradamus, but you know, what if Nostradamus did crypto? Oh, that'd be fucking horrible. All jokes aside, right? Again, I'm not asleep at the wheel and just trusting the court to do the right thing, all right? I'm looking at these people as corrupt people, partisans with incentives, right? Who follow their incentives for their own personal gain. They also have egos. They also have ways they want to be remembered and power they want to have. And from the times they do break with Trump, I understand they don't break a lot, but they do pretty emphatically sometimes. When they do break with Trump, a lot of it is aligned under some of the same principles that are at work here. But that's just my take on it. Let me know what you think in the comments, and please do not panic. This is, once again, a long fight, and incentives matter long term. The one thing for sure is the court needs term limits and it needs to be expanded. That's our show. Thank you so much for watching. Remember to like, comment, subscribe. Tell me if you like my Nas hoodie. I think it's a nice Nas hoodie. And we'll be back next week with more. Really appreciate y'all for sticking around. My name is Tabani. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see y'all soon. Let's go!